Hi everyone, and welcome to Our Debt-Free Lifestyle. If you're new here, my name is Mel and we are a Christian family of 4, soon to be 5, living in Melbourne, Australia on a single income. On this channel we talk about how our family makes life work. Everything from frugal living, parenting, household organisation and everything in between. Before I start the vlog, I just need to give you a heads up. There is going to be some confronting NICU images and videos, so it is a trigger warning. But today's topic is why we chose this lifestyle. I wanted to clear the air on some things and why we chose this lifestyle, because lately we've been getting some questions and comments, and to be honest, I get it. In this day and age, it's not a common choice, so it can be hard to understand or in some cases support it. But before I delve into where we are now, I think it's important to discuss the type of people we were then, because both JR and I have been very hardworking people. You could say we took pride in our hard work ethic, and some might have even called us workaholics. We have spent the better part of 25 years working and earning an income. When we planned out our life, it didn't cross our minds at all to be on a single income or for me to be a stay-at-home mum. To be honest, the lifestyle kind of repelled me. I didn't really see many people living well on single income, and the people I did see live out the lifestyle always seemed to be broke, had to borrow money. So I'm sorry to say this, but I felt real pity for them. Even when we finally did start our family, it was always a plan to return to work as soon as possible. In April 2020, I found out I was pregnant. After 5 years of infertility, my son arrived in September 2020, except he wasn't due in September 2020, he was actually due in December 2020, so he was 3 months early. That was the beginning of our story. In October 2021, a year later, I returned to work and we asked my mum to look after my son. It was easier for us that way because she was family. That worked for a little while, but after a while we decided to put him in a local childcare. At the childcare, it was less than $50 a day and he was 7 minutes around the corner. At first, the educators were really lovely and caring with my son, and I don't know if it was because he was in a newborn to toddler room, but I was lulled into a false security and took on more days at work. So initially I went back to work for 3 days, then it crept up to 4 days. In June 2022, we found out we were expecting our second baby. So working the 4 days was a great financial decision. And in fact, I was going to consider going up to 5 days just before maternity leave, just so then we can have the extra money and funds. It was at the end of 2022 where Lion started to show resistance with childcare. He moved to a different room and I would see him settle. So I didn't see it as a problem, but going to childcare in the mornings was more and more challenging. In 2023, when our daughter was born, I was at home full-time on maternity leave and his resistance to childcare worsened. He cried before we left home, so I tried going different routes, but he would soon recognize the streets nearby and slip right back into screaming and turmoil. It was heart-wrenching to leave him screaming in the hands of his educator, but I was assured he was okay and that he'd adjust fine. Looking back, I feel like maybe I just conditioned him to abandonment. My daughter Rose also had her own complications with hip dysplasia. So there was a lot of medical appointments, ultrasounds, physio, OT and things like that I needed to attend to with her. So while I was on maternity leave, I became more flexible with Lion's attendance at childcare. And some days it was easier, whilst other days it was a little bit tough because I needed rest. I started to talk to him about danger and hurt, especially when it came to road safety. On this particular day, I really needed rest, so I took Lion to childcare, but when we arrived, he wouldn't get out of his seat. He just blatantly refused. Reassure him and comfort him, but he pulled away saying, no, danger, hurting me. Broke my heart. I could not ignore that. We didn't ask questions, I just trusted him, and in July 2023, we took him out of childcare with the intent to enroll him somewhere else. We did try another standalone kindy, but that didn't pan out, and so it just felt much easier or much better for everyone if he just stayed home with my daughter. In December 2023, having paid off our last consumer debt and living off my mat leave pay, and JR was working full time. I was due to return to work in February 2024. But being at home for that time, I noticed some things I might have otherwise missed if he was still in childcare. Things like he was not saying any discernible words, hearing concerns, not responding to his name, and I started to notice some delays, so I sought out medical help for assessment. I saw that our children needed me more than the corporate world needed me, so I drew up a proposal for us to test trial being a stay-at-home mum and living on a single income. And from December to February 2023 to 2024, whatever income I received, we put it away straight into savings and just use JR's income to pay for our living expenses. Of course, JR wasn't convinced it was the route he wanted to take, but was willing to try it out, and that's what we did. It came to February and we hadn't really talked about what we were going to do, But when I told JR that my boss was going to call me about my transition to work, he confirmed that I would be staying home, so I resigned. It turned out to be the best decision we made because there were a lot of things going on that I might not have paid attention to if I was still working. I don't fault anyone who uses childcare. Do what you need to, mama. It's what I did, and I know in this economy it has to be done. When other people are raising your kids, it can come with downsides. I had learned about attachment theory and could see the differences in my daughter's development and from my son. At first, being at home was really challenging. I didn't grow up with a stay-at-home mum, and I didn't have it modeled to me, and I felt like I was floundering around. I felt more comfortable in a corporate workspace negotiating payouts with customers than what I would teaching a child how to regulate themselves. Some women I would ask would simply say, it all starts at home, with no practical steps for me to try out or follow. It just felt like they didn't want to hear me. Plus, I guess every mum raises their children differently, so there wasn't a one size fits all. Now that we're 3 years into it in 2026, it definitely feels like we have more of a rhythm. My son is really thriving with his therapy, seeing a speech and occupational therapist, and we've talked about this on my Instagram page with the NDIS. And my daughter is approaching 3-year-old kindy, and she's thriving and having her social spaces. And we're about to welcome number 3, so I'm going to go through that newborn stage altogether. So if you're trying to decide whether or not to stay home with your kids, especially in the formative years, I just want to encourage you. You know what's best for your family, so talk to your partner or spouse about it and try and work out a plan to make that step. You don't have to follow every influencer mum out there, just do what's right for your household. We had a lot of bad habits to unteach, but now we are really enjoying the fruit of our labor and reaping all the hard work. There are successful single income households out there that aren't living on borrowed credit, that are financially thriving. So if we can do it, you can do it too. To summarize, we chose this lifestyle because of our kids. The catalyst was my son needing extra help, but the decision is for me to be at home until the kids are at school full time. Our kids are young enough that they don't care about labels, they care more about you being there and present. So we know this is just a season. When the children are a little older, I'll return to work, and that will be our time to achieve all our big financial goals. But for now, we are content. So as always, we would love if you could like, share and subscribe, and please leave a comment below. What do you want to see more of? Until next time, hey Cornet, and see you later.